In my video on the astrology of 2025 and 2026, I painted a more general, uplifting picture of how the big transition from the slow planets being in the earth and water signs to them being in the fire and air signs may feel like and what changes it can symbolize. In this video, I'm focusing on the one crucial element of this complex configuration, on the fire starter of it all, and that is the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. It is a difficult combination, and in my opinion, to deal with it successfully, one should already be infused with enough optimism and excitement about the future. So if you're not there yet, I strongly suggest that you do go and watch that 2025-2026 video, where I focus more on the positive side of things, or to my Instagram post about it that I will link in the description. If you are already cautiously excited, let us roll up our sleeves and see what the most important astrological event of the next 2 years is all about. I am Nadia, the astrologer for people who mostly do not believe in astrology, but don't mind taking inspiration and ideas from it. And I personally find the upcoming ingress of Neptune and Saturn into Aries extremely inspiring. Now, let us deal with the basics first. Of all of the planets in the solar system that astrology is working with, 3 are the outer planets that were discovered after the invention of the telescope. That is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And yes, astrologers call Pluto a planet. It's just how it is. Those 3 are extremely slow, so it takes them anywhere from 7 years to up to 31 years for them to go through just one sign and enter the next. So when they do change a sign, it's a big deal astrologically. Sometimes all 3 of them change signs suspiciously close in time to one another. And this is the situation that we are dealing with here in the years since 2024 to 2026. Pluto entered the new sign, Aquarius, for good at the end of 2024. Neptune and Uranus will move into the new sign for them in 2025, this year, retrograde back into an old sign, and then go into the new sign for good in the first half of 2025. This is the big shift that I was talking about in my video on the astrology of 2025-2026, and it will amplify the air and the fire elements in our life, which is a welcome change from being weighted down by earth and water elements that were dominating the astrological landscape in the past few years. The focus of today's video is that Neptune, one of those 3 slow planets, is leaving Pisces and entering Aries. And the fact that it's not doing that alone, but in the company of Saturn. Now, Saturn is a planet that is a bit more dynamic. It needs about 2.5 to 3 years to move through one sign. But in 2025 and 2026, it moves almost exactly like Neptune, like it's shadowing Neptune. Let's go through the timeline. Neptune enters Aries on the 30th of March, 2025. Saturn joins Neptune in Aries on the 25th of May, 2025. They both start their yearly retrograde phases in July 2025. Saturn returns to Pisces for a final stretch in September 2025. Neptune does this in October. Saturn's retrograde ends in November. Neptune's retrograde ends in December. Then Neptune enters Aries again on the 27th of January 2026. Saturn does that on the 14th of February 2026. Happy Valentine's Day. And then they form an exact conjunction in the first degree of Aries on the 20th of February 2026, after which this aspect starts very slowly falling apart. But basically, it's on for most of the year of 2026. To put this together and to see what it means as a combination, let's first look at the elements of this combination separately. So first, I will talk about the switch from Pisces energy to Aries energy. And when two slow planets, or relatively slow planets, switch signs like that, there is a general switch in the mood around us from one sign to the other. Then I will focus on the meaning of Neptune's ingress into Aries, then on Saturn joining in. Then I will talk about these two planets retrograding back into Pisces. And only then I will combine all of that together to give you some like short version of what it all may mean. So the switch from Pisces to Aries, let's deal with that first. Every sign has a light and a dark side to it. In general, if there is a slow process of transition from one sign to the next, it makes sense to think of the old sign in terms of its darker qualities and of the new ones in terms of its more positive ones. This is not just because I want to stay optimistic, although I do, but also because the old project is realized already. It carries no new potential for us. It even may start eating at us. It's like with the I Ching hexagrams. They consist of 6 lines stacked one atop another. And the 5th is usually representing the noble, balanced expression of the hexagram's energy. And then the 6th, the one on top of it, can often be described as an overshoot, an excess, or the consequence of that energy being maybe too much or staying for too long. In astrology, the final degree of the sign is viewed with suspicion, and the first degree of the next sign as something that holds a lot of potential. So in the last few years, the Piscean energy was really strong, and it started being too much. For example, Pisces is often connected with intoxicating or mind-altering substances, and this became so ubiquitous that people started getting sober curious, or just in general more critical of the culture of drug taking. On the other hand, Pisces is also about compassion and altruism. And in our societies, we can also see a lot of pushback now against this idea that compassion should play such an important role in our collective decision making. Just like with the victimhood or martyr narratives, victims of power abuse it's a very Piscean character. It has been very relevant a few years back, but to be relevant now, this is not enough. It's not like Pisces itself is ruling over topics that are not bringing us anywhere. It's that they brought us someplace already. They did their job. So now some new energies are needed to bring us forward. So then Aries, this new sign that is still full of potential, it has a lot to offer. Even if you are watching this video at the time of the recording, which is March 2025, you already got the few first glimpses of this energy. Venus and Mercury entered Aries, and they had their retrograde phases in the beginning degrees of Aries. And there's a solar eclipse on the 29th of March, also in Aries. All this is charging the first degrees of Aries with this energy. So some of what I will be talking about, you may have felt it already, even if Neptune and Saturn are in Pisces still. So what can this focus on Aries introduce or amplify? It is a wake-up call. Now, if I got €1 for every time I have heard this phrase in the past couple of few months, I'd be able to buy me some nice fancy furniture for sure. There is this sense that such a wake-up call is needed, that it's coming, or maybe that it's already there, but it needs to be louder or a bit more intense so that people could be activated. Pisces is the sign of slumber, of hypnosis, of contemplation and passive suffering. And Aries is a shot of adrenaline that makes it impossible to stay passive. That is, unless you are one of those animals that play dead when they are attacked. Aries is also connected to leadership, and people with Sun in Pisces can be leaders, but Pisces as a sign is as far from leadership as it gets. It is a wise sign, but it contains so much that it's absolutely not able to help us focus on one thing and work towards that one thing, saying no to everything else. Collectively, we are, I would say, experiencing a crisis in leadership. So there is a niche for people who can inspire, motivate, and ignite people, especially when it comes to some positive idea and not just resisting whatever you define as bad. Then, Aries territory can be dangerous and full of risk. It is a pioneering sign. It asks us to step into the unknown and basically go towards more risk. It's not like Pisces is mind-blowingly safe either, but it is more like it's ignorant of risks, of dangers. It's more passive in getting into dangerous situations. But with Aries energy getting stronger in the next year, we could see some more conscious risk taking. People acting with less of a martyr mindset, but with more courage and appetite for risk. That is fantastic for innovation because that one is impossible without risk taking. Then also Aries is the energy of manifestation, of being born, of coming into existence. Some ideas may have been brewing also in the Piscean time, but they were just that, ideas floating in the ocean of other ideas. The Aries time will decide which one of those ideas will be thrown into the world, and also which one of those ideas that are born will survive. Because spring is a truly brutal time when countless numbers of things are born into the world, and most of them die very soon after birth. Nature is like that. So only what is born has a chance to live and enter our stories, but it's also automatically handed a chance to die, fail, be defeated. And Aries is a fiery sign that is full of enthusiasm. And lately, I would say that people who achieved things and could be proud of themselves, they did that through discipline and staying power. And this is not a Piscean ability. This is more like the quality of the earth signs that were also very strong in the past few years, since 2019, I would say. And that's amazing. A lot of people have discovered this power of discipline and of being consistent and persevering. But we have also reached the limits of where discipline can get us. And in the next couple of years, we will see where enthusiasm and passion can get us. They are more of a short-term fuel. So at some point, discipline will return to its position as the driving force of success. But for a change, it would be nice to have a more diversified power supply, I would say. Connected to the sign of Aries is also confidence, a quality that is necessary to do the work of the fire signs. There may be more of it to go around than in the previous years, but there is also a downside to it, which is overconfidence, against which Saturn will try to guard us, of which I will tell you in a bit. So far, if this resonates, like the video or subscribe. This will help others also discover this video and prepare for this time of more fire. Now to Neptune in Aries. So what will Neptune do once it's entered Aries at the end of March 2025, or once it enters Aries for good in January 2026? Neptune is the planet of dreams, visions, and glamour. In each new sign, it's conjuring up a dream or a vision that has the power to sway us, to hypnotize us, to attract us. And it can be beautiful. Unfortunately, by the time it reaches the end of the sign, the spell fades a bit and we get hungry for a new dream. And the dream of Neptune in Pisces, Neptune was in Pisces since 2012. It was, of course, multifaceted, like each Neptune transit through a sign is. And we saw different phases of this dream. But some of the examples of what those dreams could have been could be the dream of unity and harmony and interconnectedness, or like the global village where you are connected and every corner of the world is available to you. Or the dream of compassion to those who have suffered, also a powerful Piscean idea. Or the dream of being able to have it all, to not have to choose. Or the dream of living in a perfect comfort, like in a womb, calm, nourished, held, and also innocent, not bad. The dream of Neptune in Aries will have to be very different. Again, it is a multi-dimensional symbol, just like every sign is. But some of the examples of the pictures that Neptune in Aries may paint for us may be the dream of independence, self-sufficiency, ability to do it on our own, or the dream of leadership, courage, and decisiveness, ability to convert emotional fire into directed, bold action, yours or the people who follow you. My favorite one is the dream of the return of vitality, strength, and maybe also battle readiness. Then there's also the dream of ingenuity and innovation, as well as risk-taking that ingenuity and innovation demand. And in general, the dream of bold undertakings in which we would want to be involved idealistically. The dream of unity, of harmony, was perfect for Neptune in Pisces, but this dream was fresh in 2012 when Neptune entered Pisces. And after that, it was clear that if there was no focal point, no spark around which to unite with others, this dream mostly leads to us limiting our social circle to people we agree on with, to people we agree with on certain topics. So this Piscean avoidance of conflict also made us lose the skills of communicating with people who don't agree with us. But Neptune as a planet does tend to give us the hunger for something that unites us with the collective. And in Aries, this something may be something innovative, idealistic, or connected to some fight, perhaps. So the positive is that the new dreams, the new things will inspire us, and that they will actually have the energy to motivate us, give us bold leadership, vitality, innovation, and more personal involvement. But as always, there is also a negative side. For example, Neptune is notoriously bad at differentiating between truth and fiction. And some of this inspiration may be based on a lie or on an inflated sense of self, or on the lack of monitoring and course correction. Or emotions may get the better of us, or we may dream up something so big that it's just impossible to achieve. And guess what? Saturn in Aries can help us minimize those dangers. Saturn is the planet of restrictions, limitations, responsibility, labor, discipline, age, and consequences. And being able to take those consequences into account. It has been incredibly strong while it was transiting Capricorn and Aquarius in 2018 to 2022, 23. And this is when we were dealing with a lot of restrictions and bottlenecks, such as supply chain shortages or the whole pandemic restriction thing. Then Saturn moved into Pisces in March 2023, where it's not particularly strong and restrictions and limitations lost their power somewhat. Saturn is not going to be strong in Aries either, weirdly. So it's not like we are heading back to the pandemic level of tightness. But it does put a brake on things, which may frustrate us, especially in the state of inspiration and enthusiasm. But it is ultimately a healthy safety measure that ensures a more mature approach to the topic that Neptune in Aries will be introducing. It goes like this. Neptune goes into Aries first, right after this future-oriented solar eclipse in Aries. So Neptune and the eclipse show us something fascinating. Not all of us, but a not insignificant number of us will be totally into this new vision. And Neptune is poetic. So if this not insignificant number of us talks about their vision, then this charm, the infatuation, will spread further. And here we get into a bit of a dangerous area, because this Neptune will give us fire, but it will not give us intelligence, as in ability to orient ourselves and make clever plans. So we may, not all of us, but again, quite a few of us, by the end of May, we may be totally into this new thing. And then, after almost 2 months of Neptune in Aries, Saturn joins Neptune in Aries. And we would be able to talk about this new, exciting, wonderful thing, not with our eternal soul, like with the help of Neptune, not with the divine, not with our spirits at heart, but with the actual adult person in ourselves. And this adult person, first and foremost, is saying, whoa, 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 let's see what we've got here before we move any further. It is not here to rain on our parade. It's here to ask the boring, necessary questions and help us come up with something realistic and tempered. And some of the Saturn questions may be unpleasant and embarrassing, like, are we manic at the moment? How much are we sleeping? Are we eating? Do people respond well to our inspired talking, or are they more like neutral and a little bit concerned? That should make us concerned. Or what would be the immediate consequences of doing what we are inspired to do, and whether we can afford these consequences right now. Also, what is the actual plan? Like, who does what? And how is it organized in terms of hierarchy and decision making? Do we have the resources to keep doing the thing that we are inspired to do for a longer period of time? Or is it more of a single shot thing? And just for you to know, if Saturn is involved, one shot is not going to be enough. You will need the resources, the strategy, the contingency plans for when, not if, things don't go as planned. And you will have to have the staying power, the decision to persevere. You cannot have this without Saturn. Saturn knows and tells us that in order to get something good, we need to sacrifice something valuable. This is an extremely unpleasant fact of life. The valuable thing we sacrifice can be our labor, our time, the time we would otherwise spend doing something more pleasant or otherwise valuable. It's maybe like some financial or personal sacrifices. Our ego may take a hit. The summer months of 2025, Neptune and Saturn work together, and this will be a fantastic time for people who are not attracted to easy wins, because there cannot be any easy wins with Saturn. But for people who need real inspiration in order to commit to something time consuming and labor intensive, this will be a great place to be, especially if they are people who are sometimes fascinated by doing something difficult. People who need a long-term challenge, but who also want this long-term challenge to be meaningful. By the way, if you are interested in what this all means for your sign specifically, do watch my monthly forecasts. I talk about Neptune in Aries in March forecasts, and I will be all over all of that in my spring and summer forecasts as well. Is there a downside to Neptune and Saturn joining hands together in Aries? Of course there is. Together, Neptune and Saturn may represent loss or limitations and lack of clarity, or some deficits and illusions, deception, or old age and losing oneself, dissolving. And all of that in a sign of Aries that is famous for its short temper. So it can be very unpleasant. I'm saying this as a euphemism here. And there is a potential for it to go wrong for some of us. And now about the return of those slow planets to Pisces for the last retrograde shift there. I'm recording this at the very end of March 2025, when Venus and Mercury are actually retrograding from Aries back into Pisces. The same move Saturn and Neptune will make in the autumn months of 2025. Both this micro return to Pisces in spring of 2025 and the macro return in the autumn months seem to be needed before we can move forward. This reminds me very much of a story from Carl Jung's practice. His client, a successful, respectable man, saw himself in his dreams driving a powerful, long train forward, but the last cars of this train were always swaying dangerously. So it was like he was progressing, but something in the back was threatening to derail him. So in Carl Jung's interpretation, it was something that he was not paying attention to, like some spiritual, psychological, whatever. But this may be the feel of those retrogrades. Planets step into Aries, they are ready to charge ahead, but then we are pulled back into Pisces. The past needs tending to. It won't let us move on cleanly before we deal with it. Interestingly, Saturn is present and influential in both of those retrogrades. In spring, Mercury and Venus retrograde to the point where Saturn still is transiting Pisces. And in autumn, it will be Saturn itself moving back into Pisces to finish something up. Again, check out the monthly forecasts to hear what this means for your specific sign. But in general, I would say that the Piscean dream of Neptune was a mighty powerful one. And even if we are consciously turning away from it, if we are excited about this new glorious thing, if we are not consciously grieving the loss of some of the old dreams, it doesn't mean that they don't have power over us. And Saturn, ever the minimalist, can help us get closure, which can take the form of grieving. So we have a lot to look forward to. And the new dream cannot and should not carry the weight of the old one. So it is nice to, during those retrogrades, to look back, away from the new exciting thing, and to see and try to understand what are those final wiggling, swaying train cars doing there? What is making them sway so much? What did you not take off your train? Or it may be just Saturn slowing us down. When important change is happening, we tend to get mightily frustrated if we meet any delays. This is very much understandable, especially considering that we usually underestimate how much time things take, and considering that Aries is such an impatient sign. But adapting to change takes longer than the change itself. So these delays and frustrations may eventually actually work in our favor, even if they frustrate us. Now, to put it all together, this is such a long video. I think that by this time I probably lost 99% of you guys. But for those who are still watching, or for those who have skipped to this part to get the short version of it, here it is. After years of slow planets passing through Earth and water signs, weighting us down, the shift into fire and air is finally beginning. And the Neptune-Saturn conjunction is the spark to start it all. Neptune brings the vision, the dream, the fire in the belly. Saturn follows up with questions, uncomfortable, necessary ones. Not to shut it all down, but to slow us down just enough so we could start building something solid. And building something solid is what I call, and will be calling in the horoscopes, the big work of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. It's having a dream that is actually worth the labor and the sacrifice. And it is creating a structure that can carry that dream. There is no indication of this being easy. And as people say, nothing worth doing ever is easy. But it will not be unsupported either. Neptune and Saturn will get strong backing from Pluto on one side and Uranus on the other side. And starting in 2026, also from Jupiter, that will be in Leo. It will bring even more like fuel, confidence, maybe even pride or ambition. So yes, the circumstances may actually start aligning with the vision if we are willing to meet them halfway. Both Pluto and Uranus are the major players in all of that, and I will be releasing a special videos about both of them a little bit later, once we have had some real experience with this new fiery energy, and once we get an idea of what this may mean for us personally. So if you want to stick around for it, like or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.